there too, but
Oh boy. Yeah.
oh boy. I love your setup, by the way. That looks like a fun room.
Yeah, it is. It's my nerdy geekdom, which I'm a lost boy. I haven't quite grown up yet. So
Yeah, same here.
nice. This is a fun question. So you're known for bringing some of the creepiest characters to life, often without speaking, and I think you can probably say the same with Screamboat. But if I were to flip the script on you and say, what would be one line that would actually say, what would be that line for your character in Screamboat?
I would say it would have to be hot dog because that was the very first line Mickey ever said was hot dog. And so
True,
it's like
very
you
true.
have to do it somehow. Of course,
That's
oh
very.
boys in there too, but
Oh boy, yeah.
oh boy.
That's so good. Greenboat, I've just seen it, and without giving any spoilers, what was the most bizarre or unexpected thing that happened on set? Because there's a lot of practical stuff that happens, and I know from working on film a little myself, that things go wrong or things take an unexpected turn. I was wondering if there's a particular day that kind of stands out for you.
I would say probably the Dick Day. The big
Yeah,
Willie that came in. I was like, I was not expecting that. I was like, oh my gosh, that was hysterical. And they just let me play around with that thing because it's like this is too funny. I was just like, this is way too funny. So
that
I really enjoyed that, and I loved. I also really enjoyed doing the fight scene at the end, like having a sword fight with
I was
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I was going to ask, did you, I mean, I don't know, but how much practical theater work it came into play? Because it's a very physical role. Your previous
Definitely.
roles are as well, but I could see you having to cheat the camera in certain ways because of size differences. And I was
Mhm.
wondering, what did you take? Did you bring in from other roles to this that was specific that like, that must have been really tricky to do physically?
Well, especially because Willie likes to dance, so I was bringing a lot of my old musical theater experience there for him dancing around and stuff like that. But it was like I just had to use a lot of imagination because I was not filming with other actors, so I had to imagine someone, and also having to get used to changing my eye line instead of someone being same eye line as myself or lower. I had to constantly act up at something.
Oh
So that
wow,
was
that is different. So I didn't realize that no actors. This was all green screen for you or blue screen.
Yeah, yeah. They filmed all the actors first, and then either did green screen behind me or they
Yeah.
digitally projected what had been filmed, and I was reacting off of that, which was
Wow, that's
very
so
interesting to do.
interesting.
And we might have had an actor come in here or there just to help with some of the forced perspective work, like when I did
Mm.
the garroting bit with sawing off
Oh
the
yeah,
head.
so
But that
cool.
was still I was way far behind the actor, so they made it look like I was tiny and everything. So it was definitely a challenge, but it was fun in its own way because it's like I going tapping into my inner child of like when I was a kid and pretending there were big monsters I was fighting or like running away from a T-Rex or something like that. I just had to tap into that
Y-
part of myself
Straight
and
into your
envision
imagination.
that. Yeah, just go into my imagination, which was a lot of fun.
That's great. Um, so talking about your physical nature of this role, the costume itself looked hot. I was wondering
Yes.
about the practicalities of did they even have a zip for you to go to like, the toilet, those things can get really complicated and you need those
Yeah.
for for yourself on set.
Oh yeah, very much so. That was a very, very, very warm costume, and we were filming it in July too here in LA. So it's like, and the
Yeah.
soundstage wasn't necessarily the coolest place to be because all this you couldn't turn on the AC full blast because of all the sound issues. So they
Mm.
would turn on a big, huge fan in between takes for me. But I also wore a cooling vest that
Oh,
would
okay.
but I would go through about 4 or 5 of those a day because I was just so hot inside that costume. So it'd go from being solid ice to just water in just like an hour or so.
Oh gosh, you'd
And so
recommend
that
for people trying to lose weight then.
oh yeah, definitely so. I definitely lost a little bit of weight making this movie, but it was like it was. I mean, I would they would open the costume and steam would come out in July. That's
Mm.
how hot it was inside of this thing, and it was. But
Gosh.
you deal. It's like I just stayed hydrated, and they didn't have a hatch in the front for me to go to the restroom in, unfortunately, so they would have to take me out of the whole entire costume
Oh wow.
for me to go to the restroom. So that was always, I always looked weird when I would get out of the costume because I'm just skinny little me. I look like emaciated little walking around in
That's
boxers
such a
and a white beater.
contrast.
Oh yeah, such a contrast with a
So
giant head.
visually, oh, sorry, carry on with the giant head.
Oh yeah, I still had the giant head on, so that looked very surreal. I imagine to people.
How big is the actual head compared to like if you're
Oh,
just wearing the head?
it's big.
Right.
It's very
Oh,
big.
geez.
Especially
Okay,
those
so
ears. Yeah.
that perspective works well then on camera because they're having to cheat so much with the
Yes.
different sizes on screen. Magic of movie making, I guess.
Exactly. Movie magic.
So visually, Screamboat plays with these classic animation influences, obviously because it comes from Steamboat Willie.
Mhm.
How did this unique style affect your performance? Was there anything that did you, I mean, I don't know how much content there is from those originals, but did you study any of that and bring that to influence like what you were doing here?
I definitely studied those, and I try to bring as much as I could to. I mean, I'm a huge animation buff anyway, so I love cartoons. So that was fun homework for me to do, and
Yeah.
I especially looking at the original Steamboat Willie short. It was a musical. Is
Mm.
back in the Silly Symphony days. So everything was music based, and that's one of the things I love our orchestrations we have in this. It's a live orchestra we had for this thing, but I wanted to make sure I had that kind of nature to the character where he had this jauntiness where he's kind of
Mm.
bopping around everywhere he's walking. So it's not he just doesn't walk into a scene. He's kind of got a little, you know, motion with his arms, a little bop, a little. He's constantly just bopping to the music that's in his playing in his head.
Mm.
So I
Uh,
wanted to add that little bit to him.
I mean, that's a really great segue into the next question because I wasn't expecting the level of humor in this film. I thought it was just going to be like straight up horror, but when you think about it, Steamboat Willie, the whole thing kind of brings a humor
Yeah.
to it. So the balance of playing a character that has a lot of humor, but still at the same time being terrifying in moments, look,
Yeah.
mannerisms. I was wondering, why do you think that works so well, and what do you like? How do you do that? Because there were times I was like, you were funny dancing, and then you literally
Mhm.
your big mouse head would move, and I'm like, that is creepy.
Yeah. Oh, that's this. The movie itself lends itself to comedy because it's such an absurd concept when you think about it. About a 2 foot tall mutant mouse going around and killing people on a boat. You just gotta lean into the comedy with that because you can't play that totally just serious and straight. You got to have that camp behind it, just like they had with the Chucky movies and like the Leprechaun movies.
Yeah.
And it's something about a diminutive character going around killing people is just kind of funny in its own way. And so yeah, we definitely leaned into that. But well, I think what also makes it work though is like we played it real in the moments though. So like if it's the moments where Willie's supposed to be joking around, he's joking around. But when he's supposed to be serious, he's serious. And a lot of that also depends on the other actors how they play the scene because
Mm.
they're not really trying to be funny themselves. Is that the funny comes from just who they are in general as the character and how serious they are actually playing everything.
Yeah, yeah. You don't think of it that way, actually.
Yeah.
Um, your mannerisms of playing like with the head, you bring a style to it that I thought was really interesting because mentioning the comedy, but there's that horror as well. Is
Mhm.
there anything that you would have liked to do with the character that you didn't quite manage to do with it this time round? And if we get to like see a second helping of it, if that ever
Mhm.
occurs, that you'd like to play more with that character?
Um, Not really per se with the physical nature of the character. I think I just pretty much got that down pat. But
Mm,
like maybe if like he could be a little bit more expressive in the face and stuff like that. But that's just how it goes. That's you make the best of what you got with the prosthetic and everything, and it's like I try to work with that prosthetic as much as possible to manipulate it so I had various ranges of emotion
mm.
regardless of the this mask I was wearing. It was like one thing I was really thought was cool though is it was something we just found in the moment because I was just inhaling deeply at one part was how the nose would move, and that was not built to do that. It's just you had that space in there, and I was able to. And we're like, well, we got to utilize that somehow, and we did in the movie where he's sniffing. You can see the nose going to do a little boop 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 when he's. It is. I just figured out how to manipulate the nose to do that with breathing in heavily.
That's great. It's a happy kind of thing that just happens along the way when you're playing with your character. I love moments like that. So talking about just horror in general, when it comes to low budget horror films, there's a niche of people that just love these. And if that's been around, you know, from the early 70s, 60s, even to the slasher Hammer House. Why do you think they're still so loved by people, and it's growing? It's like it's not so niche anymore. It's way more in the, you know, the general public eye.
I think it's because these movies are made with passion. There's a lot of passion put behind them. It's not like, you know, when you have these big, huge Hollywood studio movies, it's just money. That's all they're making it for is money, and they have all the money to throw into the world. But when you're making these movies, you have to love what you're doing. You have to care about what you're doing, and you're trying to find creative solutions to problems you might have because you don't have the funding that the big studios have. So there's a true passion put behind them. There's a true love and dedication put behind it. And I think that's why you see such a difference between the lower budget movies and the big budget horror movies. There's like everybody's passionate about what they're doing. They love what they're doing. And it shows itself on screen, I think, in that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I think it's just going to become more and more evident as people are, you know, coming together for the lower budget end of things, because we get that creative process, which is so evident on screen. That is all my questions, apart from one little kind of teaser. I was wondering, how many of the little bits are stuck in your head, the little whistles, you know? Do you have nightmares of those? And is there a particular one that you love that you would mind doing now?
Oh gosh, I was like, of course, they don't really give me nightmares or anything. It was definitely a challenge though. But I'm like, of course, the original Steamboat Willie theme is my favorite one. I mean, that's just like it's classic, and I'm like one of like maybe one or two people in the history of cinema that has gotten a chance to whistle that theme now professionally.
That's true. That's very
which is
true.
pretty cool.